As far as updates, I'll start with the summit today. There were about 4,500 earthquakes during the past week, so seismicity continues to be high at the summit. The most recent collapse event occurred just before 9 p.m. last night. It released energy equivalent to a magnitude 5 plus earthquake per usual, as we've been seeing. And like we've been seeing all along, after that event, the seismicity dropped, but we expect that throughout today, the earthquakes will begin to increase in number as we lead up to the next collapse event. Excuse me. Sulfur dioxide emissions at the summit remain low, on the order of 100 tons per day. On the lower East Rift Zone, the story is about the same. Fissure 8 remains the active vent. It's feeding lava into a channel that extends to the coast. And the ocean entry is still active near Ahalanui, but the south flow margin has not advanced any farther to the south and is still about 500 meters or 0.3 of a mile from the boat ramp at Isaac Hawley. SO2 emissions remain high on the lower East Rift Zone, and I think this is a great segue into the Weather Service report because of the disruption of trade winds and what that combination of disrupted trade winds and high SO2 emissions means.
Why don't we go directly to Derek Rowe? Derek is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Do you want to go ahead with your statement or address Janet's comment about the trades?
Yeah, I'll do both of those. That was a great lead-in. Thank you. Right now, typically this time of year, we get very few disruptions in the trade winds, and when we do, it's usually a little bit of a disturbance that's coming up from the deeper tropics that tend to be a bit more moist, and that's kind of the case today. That's what happened. One passed through. It's over on the western end of the state right now. It's more towards Kauai and Oahu. We had some rain here this morning, and it's raining on Kauai, so it's through the Big Island. But what it does is you tend to see a little bit of a wind shift associated with that, and that's exactly what's going on today. So the typical trade wind direction is from just north of due east, so that would be out of the east-northeast. And when you get features like this, sometimes the trades will shift around to be almost due east or even just a slightly out of the east-southeast, and that's exactly the case today. So their winds are more or less unchanged in terms of the magnitude. They're still blowing around 10 to 12 miles per hour like they have been for the past several days. But the wind direction has shifted just slightly. But that small shift means that instead of blowing down more towards the coast of southern Puna and down out towards the Kau area, that means that a lot of these emissions are pushing upslope across Pahoa. And we took a look at some webcams this morning, and there's even some evidence on that some of the emissions are getting up into the saddle between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. So that's really no big surprise that those emissions are doing that today. This disruption will be brief. It's going to be, once this feature moves through, the trades will go back to their normal direction, and that's going to be evolving overnight. So by tomorrow, things will be back to normal. Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. It's stable. We don't really have much concern for heavy rain today. There'll be a couple of heavier showers over Pahoa just because that plume is being pushed up over them, but we're not expecting any problems. Other than that, I think that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Derek, and we will go to questions in a few moments. Our next speaker is Jessica Farrakane with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and most of you know that Kilauea's summit is actually located in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So, Jessica, what do you have for us today?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's status quo up here at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. For anybody who's keeping track of it, today's day 74 since the park closed on May 11th. I am actually in the park right now working from the Visitor Emergency Operations Center behind closed doors with air scrubbers on because the air quality is in the very hazardous or red range up here. We are having terrible air quality conditions up here in Volcano. And not just in the park at the summit area, but also in Volcano Village. And again, as Janet pointed out, this is not emissions coming from the summit, but rather the lower East Rift Zone eruption site and the light trade wind. So that was a really good segue in from Derek at the Weather Service for me as well. So anyway, here I am. The other news, also you guys can also check the conditions on HawaiiSO2Network.com to see real-time air quality conditions here in the park and the surrounding community. We've had a lot of earthquakes over the weekend. The most recent one did, again, more damage to Highway 11 and Crater Rim Drive. And we're working with HDOT, or the Hawaii Department of Transportation, on how to repair those and what's happening moving forward on those damages to the park roads. We, at this time, urge all motorists to drive slowly and carefully through Highway 11 and heed the 25-mile-per-hour signs. We do have an increased law enforcement presence right now maintaining the closure as well as the reduced speed limit through Highway 11. So please drive carefully. Lots of cracks, lots of buckling on a very unstable surface. And then my last message is a uplifting one. We have a Learn How to Pound Poi cultural workshop happening this Wednesday at the Moku Papapa Discovery Center in downtown Hilo from 10 to 12, and that is free. That's all I have. Thank you.